help me understand a little bit more about your point about the institutions and the way in which this was handled, recognizing your point that this is really separate from the merits of Comey's handling of the email investigation. But his firing, explain how that challenges institutions in your view.
Well, here's one of the things that D.C. is just constantly head in the sand about, which is that we've got a bunch of different institutions that have 9% and 12% and 15% public trust and public approval. America can't work that way because we need a shared narrative about who we are as a people, what government can and can't do, and what the beating heart of the First Amendment and free press and freedom of assembly and speech and religion means to us. We need to have a shared civic understanding of America before we get to partisan and policy differences. There are important fights to be had in policy, but we first need a civic sense of what America is. And here's what comes next in things like Russian interference in America and in other countries in the age of cyber war over the next decade. I'm obviously concerned about 2016, but I'm far more concerned about 2018 and 2020, because here's what comes next. John Dickerson decides to run for office in 2018, and all of a sudden your credit card records get dumped in some sort of a cyber hack leak, and 97% of those records are going to be real, and there's going to be texture to it, and you were in City X on this day, and you were in City Y on this other date, but 3% of the records are going to be fabricated, and they're going to be interwoven. And John, you've been spending a lot of money at a women's clothing store in Chattanooga, but your wife isn't in Chattanooga. So that's weird. And then there's public doubt about you, and then 5 days later your phone records are dumped and they're 99% accurate, but 1% you're calling a brothel in Chattanooga on Tuesday nights when your wife's at Bridge Club. That's what's coming next in the era of cyber war. And we're going to need to have some institutions that we can rely on and believe are apolitical when the public has more and more doubt. And right now, Washington isn't at all focused on the long-term challenge of rebuilding a shared narrative about America and institutional trust in our servants.